So we know we need to fuel our training properly. For a lot of guys who start out on a starting strength novice linear progression, two things that need to be checked off from a nutrition standpoint is making sure we're getting enough good calories in and we're getting enough protein in to ensure that your body has the fuel it needs to recover from the stress and fuel your training. So one thing that I always am battling with clients is they say, I don't know how to eat this much, or this is a lot of food, I don't know how to fit it into my day. How can I get more calories and protein in at the same time? So the first one I always address is the protein. Like, let's get your protein up to about body weight in grams of protein per day. Once we check that off, then it's time to start worrying about calories. Now, initially in the novice LP, we want to be gaining multiple pounds of body weight per week if you're kind of in that skinny range or maybe just that under-muscled range. If you're overweight, this doesn't apply to you, okay? It does a little bit because we can take it backwards, and I'll get to that later here in my chat. But here's the thing that I like to see a lot. When people talk about doing their macros, they talk about, let's adjust carbs to increase calories or decrease calories. Now, when we're training hard, I like to keep the carbs as high as possible. I like to keep the protein as high as possible, but I like to manipulate the fats based on what we need to do going forward, okay? So if instead of cutting carbs out, if you want to lose weight, or instead of adding more carbs, which may make you feel bloated and shitty, let's look at the fats. And this is one way that you can move your body weight up or down 1 pound a week just by manipulating these few things, okay? So number one is, let's just talk about the use of oils and fats in our cooking, okay? So the cool part about oils is they're very easy to add into general meals to increase the calories, but not really increase the density. So if you want an extra 200 calories worth of rice, well, that's more rice that you have to eat, or that's 200 calories more worth of potatoes. Whereas olive oil, 200 calories is like a tablespoon and a half. And you can just throw that on, say you're eating chicken and rice, or you're eating some eggs and potatoes in the morning. You can just throw that olive oil on top of it and you don't even notice it, but you're getting the calories that you need in order to hit that goal of gaining a pound per week, okay? So something that I'll do is like, okay, how can I get 500 more calories in my day just by using oils? And let's just use this for an example. The first one is, let's say we're making some eggs and we're making some potatoes in the morning. Okay, we got 6 eggs. There's already some fat in there in the yolks, and then there's no fat really on the potatoes. Maybe you air fry them with some seasoning. Well, now we need to get a few more calories. So in the morning, you put just 2 tablespoons of olive oil on top of your field of food, mix it in, and you don't really notice any extra volume that way. And it kind of lubes everything up and it makes it almost easier to go down. So if you're one of those guys that struggles to eat because you get like sick really soon, having oils not only increases the calorie density, but it also allows you, it increases the calorie density, but it also allows you to lubricate your food, and it's just gonna go down easier, right? So looking for the right words there. So that's one way. So breakfast, already you have your eggs, you have your potatoes, then you throw in 200-ish, that, 2 tablespoons of olive oil is actually right about 250 calories. So there's 250 right there, okay? So then later you have some chicken and rice for lunch, and it's like, okay, let's add a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil with the seasonings, whatever that you're putting on there. Again, not much more volume, like what it would be if you added more carbohydrates, more rice, right? There's the olive oil, helps lubricate it and go down, okay? So then the same thing at dinner. Say you're having a steak, some potatoes, or steak and a big old salad. That's what you're gonna have, but you need some more. throw some olive oil on the salad, throw some on the potatoes, right? So that's one way of doing it. Now, all of a sudden, you've put yourself in a situation where just by adding a little olive oil gets you to an additional 500 calories per day, and you're hitting your protein mark already. And that extra 500 calories over the course of a week amounts to that 3,500 calorie mark that you need to gain a pound of body weight. And that's how you can easily stack on a pound of body weight per week just by manipulating that over your maintenance, right? So let's just talk briefly about some other stuff that you can do. If you hate olive oil, butter, it does the same thing. High calorie density. You know, cook your eggs in a bunch of butter and eat it all, right? Put butter on your potatoes. Melt the butter, put it over your chicken and rice. It doesn't really take anything away, doesn't ruin the flavor. In fact, it makes everything better. So that's one way of doing it. Another one for cooking is avocado oil. You can do that as well. Now, let's talk about the inverse of this. You can also do this when you need to lose weight, okay? A lot of guys that are bigger, that have some more body weight behind them, they're fatter, they like hearty meals. They like to eat, fatty steaks, fatty burgers. They like to cook their eggs in butter. They put a lot of oils in their cooking when they're making meat. They're doing all that. And that's one of the first things I look at too. How do we mitigate the amount of fats because they're so calorie dense? And versus what most people suggest, which is cutting out carbs. But when you cut out carbs, even if you're overweight to some capacity, that will affect your training if you're training hard. You know, if you're not strength training really hard, you're just doing kind of some cardio stuff, yeah, go ahead and cut the carbs out. But this is a way to maintain the quality of your training by getting the carbs in. So a just basic avocado oil spray or any cooking spray, use PAM. Like, I don't give a shit. It's 0 calories or like 1 or 5 or something like that when you spray it on there. Yeah, some of them have some fucking seed oils or some fucking soybean oil or whatever. And, you know, if you have the idea that you don't need to use seed oils, that's fine. I'm kind of like that, so I like avocado oil spray. And so if I want to lose some weight, so like recently I've lost about 20, 25 pounds. And one of the main changes that I've done during this cut is I've increased my endurance training and my jiu-jitsu training as opposed to my strength training is cook with less oils. That's one of the main things I've done. I love buttery eggs. I love fatty cuts of meat. I like making a steak and putting a fucking big old chunk of butter on top of it. But instead, now I just use some 0 calorie cooking spray. And that, just doing that probably takes my calories down by 500 a day. That's about a pound a week just by making that one change. So whether you are bulking, whether you're trying to take advantage of those gains in the starting strength LP, and you've had a starting strength coach like me tell you, hey, you need to gain 20 pounds in the first 4 weeks, and then after that, you need to gain 2 pounds a week for 4 weeks, and then after that, you need to be gaining 1 pound a week until we get your strength to a certain level. This is just one of those ways to get the extra calories in without you having to eat a ton. Super accessible, super easy to use. So this is one of my favorite ways of doing it. Manipulate your fats using your cooking oils.